Also important that you have some perspective. Now, on 9/11, 2,973 people in this country died from terrorism, and that was a horrible tragedy. Their families, their friends, their associates. Terrible day for America. But we need to keep that in perspective. It's been over 4 years. There hasn't been a single death from international terrorism in America since then. But do you know in that 4-year period, 20,000 Americans have died of food poisoning? Do you know that? 5,000 die every year. We don't have a war on food poisoning. In the last 4 years, 160,000 have died in automobile accidents. More than 400,000 have died of medical mistakes. Now, you want to talk about something scary? Maybe going to your doctor could be scary. 400,000 Americans. According to the American Medical Association, that's the numbers they admit to. So keep these numbers in perspective. Let me give you another perspective. A study came out in August of 2001 that said if we wear NASCAR quality helmets for every occupant of every vehicle in America, we could reduce fatalities by 40%. So let's have a vote this morning. How many people would like the U.S. Congress to pass a bill, have the President sign it, so that on January 1st, 2006, every occupant of every vehicle will wear a NASCAR quality helmet? Okay, see hands. Okay, for you folks in the front rows, there's nobody raising their hands behind you, okay? Hey, I'm talking 16,000 lives here we could save next year. I told that to my secretary, and she goes, wow, every day is going to be a bad hair day, right? So let's keep that in perspective now. So when you hear a bomb goes off in London, and then you hear a congressman say we've got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting new security systems in subways, we got to kind of ask that question. Well, what about those 5,000 people die every year of food poisoning? Should we be spending more money on public health and checking restaurants? One more story on perspective. You remember when the color-coded system came out? And I'm not going to tell any jokes about, chartreuse or anything like that. But the color-coded system came out, and then I was in Mount Vernon, Illinois. I was getting ready to speak to the Sheriff's Association out there of Illinois, and out in the middle of cornfields. And the evening before, CBS called and said, hey, we want you to be on the early show. And I said, I'm in Mount Vernon. They said, no problem. We're sending a satellite truck down from Chicago. So there I am, sitting in the lobby at 6 o'clock in the morning at the Holiday Inn, being interviewed by Hannah Storm. And at the end of the interview, she said, well, Colonel Larsen, I know you have a 19-year-old daughter in Washington, D.C., and you always tell us that Washington, D.C. is the #1 terrorist target in America. Are you worried about your daughter today? You're out in Illinois. And I said, Hannah, I'm a father. I always worry about my daughter. That's part of the job description. But let me give you the priorities of my worries. Number 1, I worry about drunk drivers. Number 2, I worry about violent criminals. Number 3, I worry about 19-year-old boys. I'm 56, but I still remember how 19-year-old boys think. Okay. And then I worry about terrorists, number 4. Keep that perspective in mind. This is just something else we add to the list as parents, as grandparents, as leaders in the community. Yeah, terrorism's there. Let's keep it all in perspective. One last thing on perspective. What's the chances in the next decade that someone in your family or someone you know or a business associate will be killed or injured in a terrorist attack? Extremely small. There's 300 million of us in this country, okay? But what's the likelihood that someone in your family, someone you know, or one of your business associates will suffer economic consequences of a terrorist attack? Far higher. That's what Al-Qaeda wants to destroy, is our economy. And sometimes the misguided reaction of our government helps them. At breakfast we were talking today, and it was fascinating comparing notes, because I had the Secretary of Transportation tell me something, and someone else sitting at the table said, well, they heard the FBI director say this at a conference over in Scotland. And someone else heard another senior official say the same thing. They said, if a weapon goes off in one of our seaports, we're going to shut down all the seaports until we can ensure the president the seaports are all safe. You know what that's going to do to the economy? Awful. We must not be an accomplice. Terrorism's about terror. It's about scaring us. It's about getting us to overreact. And that's why we have to understand what it is we're facing so that we don't overreact.